Part 35. Alien Relic Hunter. Author, Enchenmi-san. Chapter 355. Not only did the two remaining full formations rush over, but even the remaining teams and lone wolves who were trying to pick up the pieces were also eager to move in this direction, and the lone wolf who was almost collapsing was still holding on. Machine guns strafed the surrounding air. This. Looking at the red dots on the electronic map that were getting closer and closer, Kaylan couldn't help but feel speechless. It seemed that it was a blessing in disguise that they fell into the Bat Rat Cave. The melee broke out quickly and ended even faster. In front of a full formation equipped with top-notch equipment, those lone wolves could only be killed instantly. Kaylan only saw the number of remaining people in the upper right corner of the screen falling continuously. Soon, already advanced to the next round prompt popped up. Naturally, Kaylan and the others couldn't return to the ground to compete with the remaining contestants for the top three. However, as long as they could advance, the original goal was achieved. The three of them directly chose to turn back the same way and took the initiative to leave the safe zone. "Is this okay?" The hound who had been watching the game in the Zalong VIP area pinched his ears in disbelief. Except for the group of bastards who came to seek revenge when they just landed, there was no one else on the way. "We haven't even met each other yet, so we can only make it to the top four. It can only be said that they are lucky," Chi Hanfan said. "In the second stage of the knockout round, the event organizers will definitely use concrete or other things to seal the bat rat nest underground, or set up a vertical. The safe zone serves as a restriction. This kind of thing can only be done once, and it won't work the second time. Anyway, at least we have reached the top 16 now, and you don't have to worry about Valentina's medical expenses." Hound reached out and patted Chi Hanfan, who was sitting aside, on the shoulder. If the previous incident had not occurred, according to Chi Hanfan's original plan, Valentina would drive the Striker 3 to participate in the competition. As for the other teammates, several amateur mecha players would be recruited to make up the number, one with an ace pilot as a sign. It would be easy to recruit a few M5 level pilots with their own airframes, but in that case, Valentina would really have to rely on Valentina's performance to qualify. As for the goal he mentioned to Valentina before, it is even more difficult to achieve. "To be honest," Chi Hanfan sighed, "if we didn't form a team with you this time, but we competed alone, I'm afraid it would be difficult to even qualify. The strength of this year's participating teams is much stronger than in previous years." "Yes, I heard that this year alone, there are more than 30 new ace pilots who have passed the 1-on-3 challenge. It's not like before. You may not be able to produce an ace in a year." Leaning by the door, Leighton interjected, "But in my opinion, the newly born ace pilots are obviously not as strong as those veteran players. As for the aces coming out of the army, they are incomparable. It seems that some changes have been made to the driver's license assessment items. The M9 driver's license is easier to test, so the passing rate of the 1-on-3 challenge will be significantly improved." Ye, who is still relying on the hunting god hunting group, has not left. Yan said, "There are 3 M9s with quasi-ace strength and 3 M9s that have just received licenses. I think the gap should be quite big." "It's very big," Chi Hanfan nodded. He himself is the holder of the M9 level license, but if he were to fight 3 new M9 pilots who had just obtained the license, he would not dare to say that they would kill each other unilaterally. It is still possible to win easily. From a certain point of view, Chi Hanfan can be regarded as an ace pilot, but he himself is not willing to fly a mecha anymore. In another VIP box on the Zalong, a middle-aged man wearing a long black trench coat and a top hat of the same color looked at the promotion list displayed on the screen, with a dignified look on his face covered by the shadow of the hat brim. "Look. Strangler Squadron, former Reserve Sergeant, Valentina, Experiment No. 159, Akira Asano, and Major Chi, should also be with them." Unexpectedly, these two groups we actually formed the same team to participate in the competition. I really didn't expect. He was silent for more than 10 seconds, and then waved to the attendant on the side. The attendant walked forward, bent down, and asked in a very respectful tone, "Sir, what are your orders?" "Let Abed and the others kill 3 members of this team in the finals. I don't want them to return to the Ark alive." The man in black pointed at the 4 words "Hunting God Hunting Group" in the promotion list on the screen. His tone was casual, as if he was instructing his entourage to inform the kitchen how rare the steak should be tonight. "Sir, doing this may result in our team being eliminated or even banned. I don't want to repeat it again, understand? In addition, tell Abed that I will give them enough compensation. Even if they are banned for life, they can enjoy the life of the upper class for the rest of their lives, so that they don't have to have any scruples." However, during the investigation after the game, it must be said that the death was manslaughter. If anyone dares to say even half a word. He did not continue speaking, and the entourage already understood what he meant. "I know what to do, I will go and get them ready now. There's no rush. The second phase of the knockout round will start in 3 days. You just need to tell the 3 of them 10 minutes before the start of the game." The man in black raised his hand and glanced at the follower with the corner of his eye. The follower's body sluggishly stagnated, and he knew very well that since Sir said this, it meant that not only the 3 members of the Hunting God Hunting Group were going to die, but even Abed and the others, probably wouldn't survive long. After all, the players in the club are not close associates of this Sir, they are just a group of senior employees who have signed a contract and are paid to work. Since they will do things for the Sir for money, they will naturally sell out for money. Gentlemen, the so-called compensation is just a cover. Let them shut up forever afterwards, which is naturally the cleanest way to deal with it. There is no need to make complicated arrangements. Just arrange a paid vacation for them after the game, and then a car accident or an attack by indigenous creatures can completely wipe out all the clues. Even if someone suspects it, there will be no traces, can't get any evidence. You have to handle the rest in person. I will take care of things, please don't worry." At the same time, Kaylan, who had just been pulled back to the ground with a rope by the rescue team, suddenly felt a chill for no reason. His inspiration had been greatly enhanced since coming into contact with the stone tablet in the glacier ruins. Can often perceive things that others cannot detect. Although Kaylan himself cannot verify this, it is always right to be careful when such signs appear. "Strange, why do you feel this way? Is it because of the dream before? Or, is there something wrong with this ruins?" Alien Relic Hunter. Author, Chenmi-san. Chapter 356. The second phase of the knockout round, also known as the final, will be held in 3 days. During these 3 days, the organizers of the event will not only have to tidy up the arena that was badly damaged by the battle and reset the supply points, but also have to deal with some of the unexpected loopholes that appeared in the first phase of the knockout round were repaired. Although the official did not say it clearly, Kaylan knew at a glance that this loophole naturally meant that they used the bat rat nest to fight with no one at all. In this case, it was a matter of entering the top 4. However, according to the information revealed by Yayan, in the finals, the distribution of resource points will be completely random, that is to say, the cursor brightness of all resource points will be exactly the same. It all depends on luck whether a super resource point filled with various high-level weapons and equipment or a low-level resource point that is not enough to equip one machine. In addition to resource points, a small amount of 3 types of materials, weapons, ammunition, and energy crystals, will also be dropped in order to prevent the unlucky team from landing and searching several points but failing to get a gun. Appear. However, it would be a big mistake to think that after such modifications, the excitement of the competition will decrease. Although the fierce competition for super resource points will not appear in the finals, the competition for all contestants will. The electronic map will be unlocked at the beginning. Just like the first stage of the game, it will be scanned every 2 minutes. The positions of all remaining players in the field will be marked and shared with everyone. It is almost impossible to score points. Possible things. Even the slogan of the organizer of the event explains this: more random, more exciting, the contest between the hunter and the prey, the game between the pursuit and the counter-kill, everything is in the 21st Arc Machine, a competitive competition, the finals. There are still 3 days left. You can have a good rest and design a few new tactical coordination plans in the VIP room, Kaylan said to the others. Asano Akira's ability has been exposed in the first phase of the knockout round. The other participating teams must have noticed this. Although it had a surprising victory against Angre's club, our success was largely due to the opponent's carelessness, which made us use a machine at the beginning. Replaced their trump card. What Kaylan said makes sense. The first time you use the strange move, you will get good results, but the second and third time you use it, the effect will only get worse. Although I admit that Asano Akira does have extraordinary capabilities, but in head-on combat, humans still can't compare with mechas, Chi Hanfan said. In fact, our team only has 2 combat mechas. When encountering any other full formation, our firepower, they are only 2/3 of the opponent, which is an extremely obvious disadvantage. In a battle between ace pilots, as long as they seize a slight advantage, they can expand it into a victory, and these 3¼ difference in firepower is more than just a tiny bit. Due to the restrictions of the rules, the only weapons Asano Akira can bring into the field are close combat weapons such as swords and daggers, not to mention infantry anti-armor weapons such as rocket launchers and individual guided missiles. Even firearms and crossbows are not available. Weapons that cannot cause damage to mechas are on the banned list. Unless you encounter an opponent like the Angre's club, who is looking for a fight as soon as he lands, and does not even have the lowest level of light armor, and the power lines and skeleton joints all over the body are exposed, Asano Akira can play his role. Otherwise, no matter how sharp the Nino alloy sword is, it will not be able to cut through the body armor that is several centimeters thick. How about replacing Layton? Hound said. Although this guy is a loser, he can at least be a fill-in, right? No, there is no need to temporarily change the formation. Kaylan shook his head. Even in the later stages of the game, Asano Akira's detection and containment abilities can still play a certain role. Moreover, this time, I plan to change the original formation. Distinguished tactics. Are you planning to fight on the ground? Chi Hanfan raised his eyebrows and said in surprise, but, even if Asano Akira can cause damage to the whiteboard skeleton, he can only do it when no one is paying attention to him, like the maneuver in the game just now cannot be copied casually. Yes, we chose to avoid the battle because we were at a disadvantage at the beginning. Kaylan, you said so yourself. Hound also said from the side, you find someone to fight as soon as you land. I feel that we are at a disadvantage. Before, I chose to avoid the battle in order to get points to advance, but now it is the finals. There is not much meaning in the finals, and the electronic map is unlocked at the beginning, so there is no way to do so. If you keep avoiding the battle, it will only continue to expand. Our disadvantage is that we have to fight on the ground and try our best to accumulate a big enough advantage at the beginning. How to implement it specifically? Chi Hanfan asked. Tactics are useless just relying on paper talks. What's more, I don't even know your detailed plan. Find a place with the most people to parachute, fight while retreating, and use the terrain to involve as many participating teams in the melee. We only need to stay on the edge of the battle group, collect supplies, and look for opportunities to grab orders to fight. To support the battle, of course, you can also find ways to sneak attack the team that has just finished fighting with others and has not yet had time to prepare, and seize a time lag. This tactic may be difficult to implement, but as long as Valentine Na and Asano Akira will obey my command, and I am confident that I can lead the team out of this place. Kaylan is not bragging. Using the 2 cheating abilities of Time Stop and Alpha Language Proficiency, his ability to control the venue and battle situation is unmatched by any contestant. What's more, there is also the existence of a human sonar like Akira Asano. In the early stages of the game, when no one has any detection equipment, a pair of sensitive enough ears is enough to give them an advantage. You are planning to fish in troubled waters. Chi Hanfan finally realized, it's very risky to do so. I think you already know about the game just now and the melee on the ground at the end. Those things that you want to do now, no one can take advantage of any lone wolf who wants to fish in troubled waters. These two situations are completely different, Kaylan retorted. First of all, we are not a lone wolf. Although we have one less machine than other teams, any team that wants to destroy us in a head-on battle will have to spend a lot of money. No less than 10 minutes, and these 10 minutes are enough for a lot of things to happen. Secondly, we fight as soon as we land. There is no equipment gap between us, and there are no long-range weapons. If we want to pull each other, if we do, we can prolong the battle longer. No team will be willing to spend half an hour or even an hour to eliminate us. By then, others will have already gotten the guns, and even if they kill us, they will still be. We are in a state of having no supplies, and we cannot fight against other teams. I think anyone with a little bit of brains should understand this. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Alien Relic Hunter. Author, Chenmi-san. Chapter 357. Kaylan, wait. Asano Akira suddenly stood up and turned his ear to the door. There is someone outside. It's a corridor outside. Isn't it normal for people to come and go? Layton said subconsciously, but he soon realized, you mean, someone is eavesdropping at our door, right? Not at the door, but not far away. They stayed for several minutes, Asano Akira said. I'll go take a look. Kaylan pulled out a pistol from the tool bag on the side, stuffed it into the inner pocket of his clothes, and then walked straight towards the door of the box. Although the group promised to ensure that every audience and every gun the personal safety of the participating teams, but in Ian's view, this promise is just an empty talk. For those who are concerned about the power of the consortium, even if the consortium does not say this, they will not disrupt the order of the mecha competition, and those who don't care about this at all, let alone on the ancestral dragon, even at the gate of the headquarters of Yes Consortium, they dared to commit murder. And those guys Kaylan provoked happen to be just such people. Whether it's the fanatical believers of the heretical sect or the dead soldiers bribed by the Morgan family, they don't even care about the security bureau, so how can they care about a word from the group? Kaylan opened the door and took out a cigarette that came from the dog's pocket. He pretended to smoke in the corridor and at the same time used the corner of his eye to glance in the direction Asano Akira said. Go. Sure enough, 3 or 4 meters away from the box door, 2 men wearing light gray mechanics uniforms were standing there. One of them was tinkering with something like an antique radio. Kaylan was no stranger to that thing. Although the casing was indeed an antique radio in the style of the old era, inside the casing was a sophisticated eavesdropping device. This eavesdropping device was very concealable. As long as it used that metal, the antenna is in contact with the wall and can record the sound in the room on the other side of the wall. The first time Kaylan saw this thing, it was from the sales email of the information dealer on the forum, but it was just because of its low-cost performance. It was terrible and of no practical use to him, so Kaylan didn't spend the wasted money to buy this toy. But Kaylan was still very impressed by the antique shape of this eavesdropping device, so he recognized it at a glance. Hey, buddy, what is this? Does it look cool? Where did you buy it? Seeing that the other party had noticed him, Kaylan took the initiative and walked towards the two of them. Ah, this is just a retro radio. A trace of panic flashed in the mechanic's eyes. I found it on the second-hand market. There was nothing wrong with what he said. The casing of the bug did have very serious signs of wear and tear, and it looked like it had been frequently picked up and played with. Radio. Is there a radio channel on this ship? Kaylan asked, pretending to be surprised. In order not to alert others, he did not directly ask to take a closer look at this radio. No, another mechanic shook his head. Well, that's actually the case. My buddy heard such a rumor from somewhere, saying that this old-fashioned semiconductor can be used to receive information from Alpha civilization in the wasteland. The radio signal was sent thousands of years ago, so we will take this opportunity to take this thing out and try it. Oh, did you hear anything? Kaylan pretended to be very interested. Nothing, we have tried several places. It seems that the legend is just a rumor, haha. The man smiled dryly. We have to try other places, let's go first. Yes. After saying that, the two people quickly disappeared around the corner of the corridor. Kaylan returned to the box. At this time, Akira Asano, the humanoid eavesdropping device, had recited the conversation he had with the two people outside to everyone. That radio bug, I have a friend who resold it. The price is not cheap, Kaylan said straight to the point as soon as he sat down. Eavesdropping device, Hound took out a tissue from the table and blew his nose vigorously. So, are you really here to spy on the military situation? Not sure, but I have an impression of these two people. After the three of us returned to the empty ship from the arena, they appeared around us more than once. One of them, I saw him at least 4 times. At first I thought it was just a coincidence, but now it seems that he was following us consciously, Kaylan said. Only following us, not other teams, Chi Hanfan asked. They only stay near our box. The person who answered was Asano Akira. There are 6 similar boxes in this corridor, but these two people did not eavesdrop on the conversations in the other 5 boxes. This question is it's obvious. Something's wrong. Even if they are spying on military intelligence, there is no reason to pay special attention to us. The Hound crossed his fingers and put them under his chin. He bent down and put his elbows on his knees. Even if our performance is very impressive, but in terms of hard power, we are not considered a strong team at all, and we are not a favorite to win the championship. There is no reason to come here to inquire about our news. Is it possible that these people also want to learn from us, dig a tunnel? Could it be aimed at me? But in the knockout stage, I didn't bet on you, Yan said in confusion. Probably not. You can rest assured about this, Mr. Ye, Kaylan said, but I just caught a glimpse of the trademarks of several sponsor manufacturers on their uniforms. Just check which team those manufacturers co-sponsored. Team, you will know the identities of these people. What are they? Layton had already opened the laptop, pulled out a data cable from the robotic arm, and plugged it into the interface on the side of the computer. This is also one of the advantages of cyborgs compared to ordinary people. When operating computers, they can directly connect their prosthetics to the equipment, without using physical input devices such as keyboards and mice. Let me think about it. There is Bianca Chemical, the most famous manufacturer of mechanical lubricants on the Ark. There is Norma Technology that you like very much. Well, it seems that every wealthy and powerful team has with their sponsorship, and the fine steel smelting under the family group, which specializes in manufacturing mecha melee weapons, TISC. Even though I remember the remaining trademarks, I can't name them. Kaylan rubbed his forehead depressedly. For these famous brands in the field of mechas, he might have had a glimpse of them in advertisements, but he had to match the trademarks in his memory with the names of the manufacturers one by one. It's still quite difficult to get up. You can try to describe what those trademarks look like. As long as they produce mecha accessories, I know most of them, Layton said. If it is a company under our Ye family, I will definitely recognize it, Yan also said at the side. Well, let me start with something simple. There is a trademark that consists of 2 letters, an A and an E, and then there is a circle outside, with white letters on a blue background. Before Kaylan finished speaking, Layton interrupted him. It's AE Club. Kaylan, AE Club. It's Anaheim Electronics, an all-in-one mecha manufacturer under the Bister Consortium. Of course, they also produce household electronic products, but they are still most famous for their mechas. Yan said, it is the largest company in our family. There is no other competitor. Well, there is another trademark for propellers. Propeller? Is it a 3-blade or 4-blade propeller? Is there a white dotted circle outside? Leighton asked immediately. It's 4 symmetrical paddles with a dotted circular frame. It's Bucher Aerodynamics Company, a subsidiary of the Jupiter Consortium. This company originally manufactured aircraft and spacecraft, but in recent years it has taken a fancy to the potential of the mecha competition field, so it began to expand its business in this direction. We have not released a complete machine or a complete frame, but the accessories produced are all aerospace standards. They are a bit expensive, but the quality is really unparalleled, Leighton said. I know this company, but what's the use of only producing accessories? The skeleton is the core technology of mechas. Of course yes, can also produce aerospace standard accessories. Which high-end products are not better than Bucher's? Yan said, somewhat unconvinced. Master Ye is not bragging about this. The quality of high-end accessories is indeed better than Bucher's, but the price is too expensive. Bucher is taking the route of combining high-cost performance with high-end. In 1.5 years, they have the increase in market share from 0.83% to 4.95% shows that this road is feasible. Leighton stared at the computer screen, and the analysis engine continued to filter out keywords related to the massive data. That part will be manually classified by him. For the sake of commercial interests, no companies or manufacturers other than the Ye family group will appear in the promotional materials for the mecha competition, and the wealthy Ye family will not accept any in the advertisements of the same industry. The only way for the sponsors of each participating team to promote themselves is through the pilots' driving uniforms and the painting of the aircraft. If you want to find out which teams these manufacturers sponsor, you can only look at the old news media pages and search in-game videos. Found it. Just when Kaylan was recalling those trademarks, Leighton suddenly waved his fist vigorously. These companies only sponsor 2 teams, and one is a wealthy and powerful team, Dark Crow Professional Club, and the other is the quasi-rich team Titanium Steel Pioneers with an ace pilot and a quasi-ace pilot. Leighton continued, the Titanium Steel Pioneers are not very lucky. Although they have quasi-rich level strength, they were drawn into a death group with 5 rich level teams, and they did not even qualify for the group stage. They have returned to the Ark and are not on this ship at all. Then there is only this team. Kaylan looked at the Black Crow head emblem on the screen. The one who has set up special attention for us is the Dark Crow Professional Club. I can't guarantee anything else. If those 2 guys are wearing their own uniforms, they must be from the Dark Crows. Of course, it's also possible that they are moles bribed by other teams. Then, it's not information we have anymore, Leighton said. Dark Crow, sounds like the name of a villain, Hound complained. It's still the kind of villain who immediately thinks he's a scumbag. On the contrary, Leighton raised his head from behind the computer screen and looked at the Hound with some seriousness. This Dark Crow Professional Club is not only not weak, it is also a super strong team. Not only are the 4 starters and substitutes ace pilots, their coach is also an old ace who retired from the army. As Leighton spoke, he glanced at Chi Hanfan, that kind of real ace. The real ace naturally refers to the pilot who has won the Steel Blade medal in the army. As for how difficult it is to obtain this medal, probably no one present knows better than Chi Hanfan. If we are really targeted by such a team, we will be in trouble. Chi Hanfan lowered his eyelids and stared at his insteps, his face so gloomy that it seemed like he could drip water. But one thing makes me confused, Kaylan said. This Dark Crows Professional Club, in the group stage and the first stage of the knockout stage, they are not in the same group as us, and there is absolutely no intersection between us and them. Why would they want to come and inquire about our information? He continued, if they are competing for first place, They should also focus on those strong teams that are also favorites to win the championship. Compared to us, these teams are opponents worth studying. I don't know why, Kaylan always has a strange feeling, which makes him very uncomfortable. It's like a field mouse running across the floor is stared at by a poisonous snake coiled in a dark corner, abbreviated into 4 words. It is like a light on the back. You know, right across from their private room is the Glagugu Professional Mecha Club, the favorite to win this competition and one of the top wealthy teams. But according to the footsteps Asano Akira heard, those two people are not at all. Didn't eavesdrop on the conversation between the Glagugu people. Could these people have something to do with the Morgan family? Right, Kaylan thought to himself, but the Angres Club, which is affiliated with the Morgan Consortium, has been eliminated by them in the first stage of the competition. Is it possible that this Dark Crow Professional Club is also owned by the Morgan Consortium? Lighten, check the background of this Dark Crow Club. Who is their boss? Kaylan said while sending the same email to the intelligence dealer. 5 minutes later. I can't find it. There is no clue on the internet. In addition to knowing that the club itself is very strong, there is no indication at all who the investor is. I am afraid that this thing can only be known by finding the internal account sheet of their club. Layton said helplessly. Another 2 minutes passed before Ian's cell phone rang. He opened it and saw that the information dealer's reply was very brief, only 4 words. Military background. P.S. I watched the opening ceremony of the Tokyo Olympics today. The BGM when the delegations from various countries entered the venue made me stupid. The neon man was too two-dimensional. At that time, my mother just turned on the TV and heard Monster Hunter. Proof of Heroes. I'm still wondering if it's a conspiracy. In addition, thank you to bookfriend 202105160955249441 and bookfriend 201811108002303013 for the 100 starting coins. Alien Relic Hunter. Author, Enchenmi-san. Chapter 358. Military background. Kaylan subconsciously wanted to call Maginot, but after thinking about it, he put down the phone. There are many factions within the military, and the extremely complicated interest relationships between different factions. Hound has mentioned this to them countless times, and Maginot, who holds the rank of lieutenant general, is actually just a messenger introduced by one of their factions to contact them. If you ask Maginot about something like this, you will most likely not be able to get anything out of it. But if it were the guys from the Undead crew, they would definitely be able to find out the background of this Dark Crow Professional Club. But the problem is that Kaylan doesn't have the contact information of the members of the Undead crew. Even if he did, he wouldn't maybe bothering those at the peak of Ark's power for such a trivial matter, if they were still human. The clues were basically broken at this point, and Kaylan had no choice but to give up. However, what makes Kaylan a little confused is that since the Dark Crows have a military background, why are their ace players all civilian pilots with no service experience? Their coach, as the only ace with a military background, they were also traded to this club through normal transfer methods. If they really have a military background, it shouldn't be difficult to gather 3 real aces. Even if the steel blade issued in recent years, there are much fewer medals than there were more than 10 years ago, so finding pilots like Chi Hanfan who have rich practical experience will definitely be much better than such professional competitive pilots who have never seen blood. Even with a large amount of sponsorship, to run a wealthy mecha club and feed so many people plus those mechas that are more valuable than people, the amount of money that needs to be spent every year is absolutely an astronomical figure. Even taking this money, come to think of it, can't we mobilize a few ace pilots to play a few games? Thinking of this, Kaylan couldn't help but make a bold guess. Could it be that the Dark Crows did this to deceive others and distance themselves from the so-called military background? Doesn't the owner of this club want others to find out his true identity? This is too weird. Kaylan clearly remembers that there is no regulation in the military regulations of the three major branches of ARC that prohibits retired or active military personnel from participating in commercial competitions, let alone cooperation with officials such as the ARC Mecha competition, which can be called the World Cup in the new era. The top competition. In the 3rd, 4th, and 9th editions, there was even a precedent for the military to directly participate. The championship team of the 4th edition even came from the Air Force's 1st Fleet carrier-based mechas, the Red Baron squad of the force. Could it be that, this guy, like Manstein, embezzled military funds to play in the club? Then this person is really audacious. If he embezzles company funds, the most he can do is to lose everything and be blacklisted, and then pay back the money for the rest of his life. But if he embezzles military funds privately, if he is discovered, even if the amount is not, no matter how big the situation is, the military court will only give one verdict: confiscation of the home and execution, and it will be executed immediately. But after careful analysis, this speculation is obviously untenable that Guy Manstein embezzled public funds just to buy some mecha accessories like shield generators for his youngest son. For an entire, in terms of the operating expenses of a wealthy club, this amount of money can only be regarded as a drop in the bucket. If this guy really embezzled military funds to invest in the club, there is no way this kind of money flow based on hundreds of millions of dollars can escape supervision. The eyes of the system. Rules are rules. Even if this person has made a lot of money in the club and has made up for all the accounts, as long as he embezzles military funds without permission, it is a capital crime, unless he can prove it afterwards to convince both the judge and the jury. There must be a legitimate reason, otherwise a peanut will definitely not be able to escape. There must be something wrong with this dark crow, but Kaylan couldn't tell what the specific problem was. Even the powerful intelligence dealer could only find out that the other party had a military background, but knew nothing about other information. With Ian's existing resources, they couldn't find anything. Forget it. Kaylan walked to the computer, pressed the ESC key, and turned off the search engine. It's just a game anyway. At the beginning, we just had a fun mentality. Even if it's already launched, then at least we'll reach the top 16. After all, we are a professional hunting group, not a professional mecha competitive club. If we continue like this, we will put the cart before the horse. That makes sense. Hound nodded and threw a can of chilled beer to Kaylan. Anyway, Valentina's medical expenses have been settled, and Lao Chi, you have nothing to worry about. As for us, at the beginning it's just for fun. As he spoke, the hound suddenly clasped his hands together and made an action that seemed pious, but made others feel very funny. In Buddhist terms, donor, you are possessed. To be honest, old dog, I think that when you are too old to walk, you can shave your head and put on a cassock. Then you can compete for jobs with those guys from heretical sections. You have great potential. I'm optimistic about you. Leighton leaned back on the sofa and laughed while drinking. You. I actually think that your humming bald head is much more suitable than mine. It's just missing a few ring scars. How about you use the welding gun in your robotic arm to click it twice? Hound immediately replied. The originally tense atmosphere in the private room suddenly relaxed again. Even Song Xiun, who was following Ye Yan, put down her pretense of being a wealthy daughter and joined in the drinking. After a while, someone appeared on the coffee table in front of the sofa. It was already filled with empty cans. It's not strong. This beer is not strong at all. It's tasteless. It's as bland as water, the hound yelled, pulling his neck, but at this time, what he was holding was no longer a can filled with beer. It was a 700 ml bottle of strong whiskey. The huge wine cabinet in the private room was half empty, and glass bottles were scattered everywhere under the sofa. There were only 4 people left in the private room who were not drunk: Kaylan, Zofia, Ivan, and Akira Asano. Kaylan and Zofia didn't drink much, and Kaylan didn't even drink what the hound threw to him. The can of beer was not finished, but Sophia just poured a glass of white wine in her hand and drank less than 3 sips in total, while Asano Akira sat cross-legged on the sofa and ate melon seeds without even drinking a sip of wine. As for this guy Ivan, he can't get drunk at all. These guys, they can't drink so much but still want to drink. Kaylan looked helplessly at the drunken people and said to Ivan, "Give me a hand and drag these guys back to their beds." Compared with the base built on the ground, the space on the Zilong super airship is tighter, but because only the participating teams that have entered the knockout stage and the spectators in the VIP viewing area can board the ship, the per capita space is actually it's much bigger than when we were at the base, and all the facilities are equipped according to the standards of a 5-star hotel. Sitting on the bedside, Kaylan looked at the scenery outside the side window. Night had just fallen, but the temperature outside had dropped sharply below zero, and the vast wasteland was gradually covered with a thin layer of frost. Under the light refracted by the moon, the originally white thin frost showed a dreamy deep blue, although Kaylan knew that the outside environment at this time could be described as harsh for humans. But I have to admit that the night view in the wasteland is really beautiful. This is a sight that people living in the Ark residential area will never see in their lifetime. More than 70% of the humans on the Ark will never leave this fortress-like interstellar colony ship throughout their lives. Their understanding of Alpha Planet is only limited to pictures and videos on the internet. I don't know why, Kaylan. I always feel that these people are very pitiful. They are like a group of prisoners who voluntarily imprisoned themselves in this prison that symbolizes safety. For them, Alpha Planet is no different from the Earth in the old era. Everyday life is different. On the front line, they work, earn wages, buy food and other daily necessities. They are unwilling to know anything that has nothing to do with them, and they watch news programs just to pass the short leisure time after meals. The vast majority of people are like this. No, it may not be accurate to describe them as prisoners. They are more like livestock in captivity, obedient and numb. Kaylan remembered that in the old era there was a special word to describe such people, social animals. But they don't feel that they are being held captive. In the eyes of many people, working outside the Ark is dangerous and dishonorable, even though the income of a profession like a relic hunter far exceeds the average income of ordinary residents of the Ark. But in their view, the ruin hunter cannot be regarded as a normal profession at all. Just like those mercenaries who were active in war-torn areas in the old era and worked for money, there may be some passionate young people who yearned for such a career when they were in the 2nd grade of middle school, but when they grew up and entered the society and started working, no one wants to be a mercenary anymore. In the final analysis, summer job in Syria is just a joke. It is the nature of ordinary people to be content with the status quo, and the vast majority of people are ordinary people. Those who were able to board this Ark were, without exception, the elites among human beings. These people had been carefully selected. Whether it was ability, character, morality, or genes, they were the best among human beings. However, in over the past 900 years, the descendants of these elites have all become mediocre people. In the eyes of the Big Lizard, both the human elite and the vast majority of ordinary people can only be regarded as bugs. Even Kaylan is just a more interesting bug. Kaylan suddenly understood those believers who converted to heretical sects. The gap between civilizations is really too huge. This gap is so despairing that people cannot even think of fighting against it, and for some of them, their despair has turned into worship, and even its faith. It is understandable that it is biological instinct to seek advantages and avoid disadvantages. Otherwise, there would not have been so many traitors during the war years. However, these believers did not betray their own country and nation. It's one's own race. If Alpha civilization still exists in a corner of the universe and returns to this planet one day in the future, how will they treat humans, and how will they treat these traitors among humans? War. Conquer. Slavery. Massacre. As for equal dialogue, Kaylan does not think that when there is a huge disparity in power between the two civilizations, humans will have the opportunity for equal dialogue. Perhaps, humans will be treated as some kind of rare biological specimens by the Alpha people and kept in captivity somewhere. A fixed size area is like a protected animal in a cage in a zoo. Could it be that this planet is just a huge zoo? Kaylan shuddered. He suddenly felt that the gaze he felt in East 9th District was like humans observing microorganisms in a petri dish. Two bacteria were fighting each other, and one of the bacteria suddenly sent a request for help to humans. Signal, this move aroused the surprise and interest of humans. They dropped a certain reagent into the petri dish, which easily helped the bacteria seeking help kill another bacteria. At the same time, they began to observe the former more frequently. After all, there are not many bacteria that can send out help signals like humans. Perhaps even Alpha Man is just a type of bacteria that once multiplied in this petri dish. Thinking about these things, Kaylan couldn't help but fall asleep. He obviously didn't drink much, but the sleepiness that came over him was much stronger than usual. He didn't dream, maybe he had dreamed but had forgotten it. When Kaylan woke up the next day, he always felt as if he had forgotten something important. It was as if it was not the hounds and the others who drank the fragments yesterday, but him. Same. Everyone else was still sleeping. Kaylan took a sip of water and wiped his face carelessly a few times, then opened the door to the private room and walked straight out. He wanted to go to the restaurant on the ship to see what special breakfasts there were, but instead he happened to bump into the two dark crows from before standing outside the corridor. "Why, it's you again. Is something wrong?" Kaylan subconsciously put his hand into his pocket and grasped the handle of the pistol. "Well, I was passing by." I was really passing by this time. The two of them seemed to notice Ian's sleepy look. They said something casually and turned around to leave. They were unaware of the sleepy look on Ian's face after they turned around. The meaning has been swept away. He closed the door and waited for the two of them to walk out nearly 50 meters away before slowly following them. This is the way to the restaurant anyway, but Kaylan wants to see what these people are sneaking up on. P.S. Thanks to book friend 201701301934061151 for the reward of 1,600 starting coins. Thank you to Ling Mumu for the reward of 520 starting coins. Thank you to book friends 202106141551111086, Xiao Zioao, and book friend 2017120215720365 for the reward of 100 starting coins. Alien Relic Hunter author, and Chenmi San. Chapter 359. But Kaylan didn't follow him very far. The two of them turned into a small hangar. There was a sign on the door of the hangar that read Dark Crow Professional Club only, no one allowed to enter. He had to stop. Pace. Kaylan didn't have any eavesdropping devices on him, nor did he have extraordinary hearing like Asano Akira. After taking one last look at the Raven Club emblem on the sign, he turned and walked towards the restaurant. As soon as he walked into the restaurant, Kaylan heard a crisp female voice calling his name on one side. He turned around and found a girl in a white coat standing 10 meters away, holding a full bowl. The tray of food was staring at him with a complicated expression. "Miss Sakurina? Why are you here?" Kaylan walked up and asked the other party. This girl was the genius Dr. Sakurina who acted with the Mitsui Foundation rescue team during the Leviathan incident. And also the only survivor among the entire rescue team, although Kaylan and the others took her out of the base in an almost hijacking method. In any case, Sakurina's life belongs to them. Saved. After the Leviathan incident ended, Zofia sent someone to send Sakurina back to the Mitsui Consortium, but what made Kaylan a little strange was that Sakurina didn't seem to tell the people of the Mitsui Consortium that she was kidnapped. Yes, later the Mitsui Consortium even sent a generous thank you gift to Kaylan and the others. As for matters such as suspicion and kidnapping, the other party did not mention it, and Kaylan and the others would not take the initiative to talk about it. The Mitsui Foundation also participated in this competition and entered the finals. As the accompanying physician of the participating teams, it is normal for me to appear here, Sakurina replied. That's right, the Mitsui Consortium also has several series of self-developed mechas under its name, and it can be regarded as an industry leader in this industry, Keilan said. To talk about the most famous mecha of the Mitsui Consortium, it is naturally equipped with the Ranger class mecha with the Tianu Sanhua shotgun, and the Nino alloy giant sword became the Ronin. There were several Ronin mechas in the rescue team brought by Mitsui-suke, but it was a pity that they were among the countless red flesh worms. In the face of Cheng's wrath, these mechas simply couldn't perform their original functions. By the way, are you here to eat? Sakurina lowered her head and glanced at the slippers Keilan was wearing. Yes, Keilan nodded. Do you have any delicious recommendations? I'm not sure about your taste, you'd better decide for yourself. Sakurina suddenly turned around. Hurry up and order, I'll wait for you here. I want to ask you something. After saying that, she directly found a nearby dining table and sat down. You want to ask me something, Keilan murmured in his heart. Could it be something related to Leviathan? But when Maginot asked them to sign a confidentiality agreement, Sakurina was also present. She should know that these things cannot be discussed in public. Is there something else going on? Keilan randomly found an empty window and ordered a Chinese-style fried dumpling filled with soup, 2 fried dough sticks and a glass of milk. He originally wanted to order tofu curd that went better with the fried dumplings and fried dough sticks. However, this restaurant only provides sweet tofu curd, not salty, which forced him, as a salty person, to change his plan. This restaurant doesn't feel right. The tofu is actually sweet. Sweet tofu, is that something people eat? Even in the new era 1,000 years later, the salty-sweet partisanship over tofu now still exists, and it is becoming more and more intense. Holding the tray, Keilan sat down in front of Sakurina. Only then did he notice that the food piled in front of this petite girl seemed to be a lot. 4 large pieces of thick-cut steak drizzled with black pepper sauce, a paper bag full of English fries, a plate of macaroni stacked as high as a hill, and a precariously stacked ice cream ball, in addition to this, and a box of 1.5 liters of fermented yogurt. What, are you having breakfast? Keilan couldn't help but ask. What's wrong? Do you have any objections to the lady's appetite? Sakurina glared at Keilan with a bulging face. Despite this, there was still a faint blush on her cheeks. After all, from a normal perspective, the size of her breakfast cannot be equated with the word lady. Then you are really. Keilan searched for a long time before finally finding a less offensive adjective. You are really gifted. I can finish it anyway, so I won't waste food, Sakurina said, picking up an ice cream ball with a fork and stuffing it into her mouth. By the way, you just said you wanted to ask me something. What was it? Keilan took a sip of milk and asked. You should know that there are some things that cannot be said in this place. It's not that. Sakurina waved her hand first, and then her face suddenly turned redder, as if to cover up her embarrassment. Her eating speed suddenly increased. Lots of macaroni and French fries to bulge her cheeks. Keilan looked at her expression, and couldn't help but have the idea of teasing her, and whispered, Is it possible that you have fallen in love with a boy in our team and want to come to me to find out his contact information? Sakurina didn't answer. She grabbed the yogurt and drank it. Hey, your face is even redder, so I'll take it as your acquiescence. What's wrong? I'm an adult too. Isn't it normal to have someone you like? It's just that he happens to be in your team. After swallowing the food in her mouth, Sakurina seemed to be pretending. With courage, he looked directly at Keilan and said. I think the person you like is not me, Keilan said. You are self-aware. I thought you would be the kind of extremely narcissistic guy, Sakurina said. Narcissism? Where did I show my narcissism? As for why I feel like this, if your target is me, a normal woman would not show such an amazing appetite in front of the person she likes. Kaylan thought to himself that it was a good thing that after returning to the Ark, he handed over the people to Zofia, otherwise, with the girl's appetite, I am afraid that some of them would bleed a lot. That's not the key. I just work a lot every day and consume a lot of calories. I consume a lot. So I eat more. Do you understand? Sakarina protested. Okay, I understand. It consumes a lot and requires a lot of calories. By the way, the person you like is Asano Akira, right? Sakarina immediately became quiet. After more than 10 seconds, she stuttered and said, how did you guess that? Does this need to be guessed? There are only a few people in our team who have played. First of all, I have been excluded. Secondly, a big guy like Layton is definitely not your cup of tea. Then there is only Asano Akira left. Are you there? Could it be that you are a lesbian and have fallen in love with Miss Valentina? But then again, a thin and handsome boy like Asano Akira is indeed in line with the aesthetics of a girl Sakurai Nana's age. In addition, he also has terrifying strength that is in huge contrast with his appearance, plus his eyes. The blind Sanwoo swordsman is such an extremely touching setting, among other things. Among their supporters now, in addition to Valentina's fanatic fans, there are also a group of women who cheer for Asano Akira. Fans, as for K-Ian's own fans, there are only a small group of fat people from the Turret God section. Kaylan also watched the video of Akira Asano wielding a long knife to chop down mechas and bat rats in the arena. Needless to say, he was indeed very handsome. Kaylan felt that if she were a girl, she might have some different feelings for Asano Akira. Of course, this is just a hypothesis. K-Ian's sexual orientation is still very correct. Yes. Sakarina replied in a voice as thin as a gnat. Well, if you want his mobile phone number or email, then I advise you to give up. This guy basically doesn't use this kind of modern communication method. Kaylan still remembers that when they just came from the glacier ruins, when he came back, Asano Akira especially ran to his door to guard him. Although he didn't know where he found out where he lived, this guy didn't even call him beforehand. It was obvious that he didn't know where he lived. I am accustomed to using communication devices such as mobile phones that are not considered high-tech at all. After everyone formed a team for a long time, the things Asano Akira brought from his original residence were even more simple, with only a few sets of clothes and pants, a few daily necessities and a few sharpening stones. Kaylan really couldn't help it. Imagine how this person spends his free time. Chatting with that knife? I know. Sakarina nodded. I think. She murmured for a long time before saying, I want to join your hunting group. Huh? Kaylan was stunned for a moment, then shook his head repeatedly. This can't be done, this is absolutely not okay. Why not? Aren't you the leader of this hunting group? As long as you agree. My medical skills are much better than that of the Russian in your team. I am not only proficient in various difficult surgeries, field first aid and emergency medical treatment is also my strong point. Take me with you and you will reduce many unnecessary casualties when you go out on missions. Moreover, I am also very familiar with the world outside the Ark. I am at Leviathan's base. I stayed there for more than half a year. If it hadn't been for that incident, I might still be there now. Ms. Sakurai Nana, please understand the profession of ruin hunter, Kaylan said with some helplessness. Exploring ruins is not like traveling, and the conditions in the wilderness are not as comfortable as the base of the Mitsui Consortium. Moreover, hunters are also you have to face life-threatening danger at any time. I'm not afraid of death, Sakarina interrupted. If you hadn't rescued me, I would have died at that time. Kaylan suddenly felt a headache. He stretched out his fingers and rubbed his temples vigorously. Okay, let me give you another example. You can do it without taking a shower for 3 months in a row and stay in the aboriginal environment crawling in piles of feces, defecating directly in the crotch and having no pants to change into for a long time in the future, drinking unfiltered urine, swallowing compressed biscuits soaked in sewage, etc. Although Kaylan knew that it was inappropriate to talk about these things during mealtime, in order to stop Sakurai Na from joining the hunting group, he had no choice but to make this move. Sakurai was silent for a moment, then slowly said, "If you can do it, I should be able to do it too." "Okay, one last question." Kaylan held out a finger. "Do you think the Mitsui Consortium will agree to you joining our hunting group? Let's not mention that you are a person they spent countless resources to train. You are a very outstanding young doctor. Given your status alone, it is impossible for them to let you engage in such a high-risk profession as a relic hunter." After returning home, Kaylan asked Zofia to investigate Sakurai Na's identity. Although her surname was Sakurai, her grandfather was the actual leader of the Mitsui Consortium, and her surname came from the time when she was born. The mother who died in childbirth. The daughter of the Mitsui Consortium joined a hunting group and went to the ruins to find excitement in order to fall in love. This is even more outrageous than Zofia's engagement to herself. If Kaylan really dares to agree, I'm afraid it won't be tomorrow. No, tonight people from the Mitsui family are coming. I have applied to my family to go out for training for 2 years. Sakurai said, "Don't treat me like a flower growing up in a greenhouse. If I were really that kind of person, I wouldn't follow you at that time." The rescue team came together. "If I say no, it's not possible. You Japanese people are too middle class to apply for training outside. Or have you read too many fantasy online novels? Could it be that you came to our hunting group to practice? The Mitsui family still has to. Are you going to plant a few powerful old men secretly to protect your safety? Why are you so unreasonable? You were like this on the plane at that time, and you are still like this now," Sakurai said angrily. If she hadn't asked Kaylan for help, she wouldn't have been able to bear it. Yogurt was thrown in this guy's face. "Well, joining the hunting group is non-negotiable, but I will help you convey your crush on Asano Akira. If you need assistance, we will naturally not refuse it. Of course, I don't dare to say whether it will happen or not. Guaranteed, that guy Akira Asano, I don't know what type of girl he likes, but you can definitely give it a try. Try it. Well, it doesn't cost money anyway." "No, no, no. No." This time, it was Sakurai's turn to shake her head crazily. "Don't tell him this. P.S. Thank you to reader 15361174982850881 for the 5,000 starting coin reward. Thank you to the Iced Cappuccino for the 2,000 starting coin reward. Thank you to Dear Rentai and Book Friend 140821183719304 for the 500 starting coin reward. Thank you to the Supreme Emperor Haoshin Jinju, 100 starting coins rewarded by BKW5 Tur. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Alien Relic Hunter. Author, and Chenmi-san. Chapter 360. You really can't let me join the hunting group? I promise I won't hold you back, Sakurai asked pitifully. No, whether it will be a hindrance or not is not something that can be determined by your subjective will, so I can't promise you, Kaylan replied mercilessly. If you don't agree, I will tell my grandfather that you held me hostage and let the entire Mitsui Consortium target you. Before Sakurai finished her threat, she was interrupted by Kaylan. He took out his mobile phone from his pocket and put it on the table, saying, "That was just a misunderstanding. In addition, what we just said, I have already recorded the conversation, and if Miss Sakurai Na intends to do this, I will send this recording to the head of the Mitsui family, and I believe that he will definitely be on my side." You. Seeing the words recording on the screen of the mobile phone, Sakurai suddenly paused, and her tone suddenly softened. "Then, how about you arrange for me to go to the logistics unit? I have also been in the hunting group under the name of the Mitsui Consortium for a period of time. I know that a hunting group of this size will have a complete logistics department, so you don't have to worry about me. Is your personal safety safe? Our hunting group has just been established. There are only 4 people in the logistics department. 2 people are responsible for cleaning the headquarters building, and 2 are responsible for daily equipment maintenance. What can you do if you come here? Besides, the salary of a doctor of your level, I can't afford it. I don't need a salary. That's okay. I already said I don't want salary, why not? You agreed, Sakurai was stunned. The ice cream in the spoon fell directly on the steak, and the white cream and brown black pepper sauce were mixed together. It forms a weird sauce. But there are a few things I have to explain to you in advance, Kaylan said. First of all, you must abide by all the rules and regulations of the hunting group. You will not have any privileges, and you will not receive any special care. Yes, Sakurai nodded repeatedly. Secondly, your status is an intern in the logistics department. It is not part of the official establishment. You only have a basic salary and do not enjoy all the benefits, dividends, and bonuses of the hunting group. It doesn't matter if you don't have a basic salary. Third, your workplace is at the hunting group headquarters building. We will not take you on any missions, and you cannot ask any member of the hunting group to take you out of the Ark. If I don't enter the ruins, why don't I just provide you with immediate support from outside the ruins? Sakurai asked reluctantly. No, if you want to join us, you can't leave the Ark during your tenure, Kaylan said. The wilderness is full of dangers, in addition to ruins, indigenous creatures, various natural disasters and extreme environments, and even exiles and heretics. People from the sect may pose a threat to it. The god hunting group has only a small number of people, so it is impossible to allocate a few more people to protect Sakurai's safety. Anyway, your goal is just to get close to Asano Akira. It doesn't matter whether you go to the ruins or not, Kaylan added. But, don't you have an old Chinese saying that a friend in need is a friend indeed? If I can't join the mission with you, Ms. Sakurai, please understand clearly. If you want to fall in love, you must first be alive. I think you don't want something like I have to sacrifice myself to save you, Akira Asano, to happen, right? Sakurai shook her head. Okay, when this game is over, you can come to me at the hunting group headquarters. With your ability and background, you can always find the address of our headquarters, right? Abel. Looking at the expression on Sakurai's face, Kaylan couldn't help but sigh. To put it bluntly, this guy is still a little girl under 20 years old. Although she can show composure and calmness that are inconsistent with her age when treating illnesses and saving people, but in this kind of thing, the little girl's true nature is exposed. I think the Mitsui family must be extremely doting on her, which leads to her character of stalking if she doesn't get it. I hope this didn't you bring in big trouble this time. After finishing the breakfast in front of him 3 times, 5 times, and 2 times, Kaylan found a reason to run away, but Sakurai actually gave up the rest of the time and followed him. Do you have anything else? Kaylan asked, frowning. Can't I come over to your place and have a look if I have nothing to do? You are now the team doctor of the Mitsui Consortium. Why don't you come to our side? But I see that the fat man from the Ye family and her girlfriend often stay in your private room. They can go, but I can't. What about this pile of food of yours? Didn't you say you won't waste it? I have sent a message to my assistant and she will be here soon to pack the things and take them back to my place. Then you can follow me. As soon as I walk in, I'll tell Asano Akira that a guy who has a crush on him has come to the door. Before Kaylan finished speaking, Sakurai had already taken several steps back. No, don't tell him yet, I won't come with you. Okay, bye. Kaylan immediately turned around and left the restaurant quickly. A guy like Sakurai is really difficult to deal with. He can neither be violent nor reasonable, so the only thing he can do is restrain her. The only way is to use Akira Asano's name. Women are really troublesome creatures. Keilan once again verified this idea in his heart. As soon as he returned to his residence, he sold Sakurai Na directly. He went straight to Asano Akira and played the recording on his phone. How do you plan to solve this matter? I don't know. Asano Akira shook his head. Then what do you think of this guy? I haven't seen her. Asano Akira continued to answer. Keilan was stunned. What Asano Akira said was completely correct. Although the two had a fate on Leviathan, Asano Akira had never seen Sakurai Na in person. How should I put it? Her appearance should be okay. According to your Japanese beauty standards, she is definitely a beauty. Well, her skin is very white, her eyes are big, and her facial features are a bit close to that of a two-dimensional beautiful girl. Type, by the way, do you know what the second dimension means? I don't know. Asano Akira continued to shake his head. Pretend I didn't say it. In short, Sakurai Na is quite beautiful. You can ask Lao Go about this. He must agree with me. When I kidnapped her, he thought I was just looking for sex, Keilan said. Oh, Asano Akira remained expressionless. That's right, you can't see the figure despite being beautiful. Keilan recalled, the figure seems to be a little bit worse, quite flat, but she is still young, so there should be room for growth. Oh. Don't keep saying it. She fell in love with you at first sight. No, it should be love at second sight. But whether it's first sight or second sight, she will come to your door after the game is over. You can't be disrespectful to her. Ignore it. That's what you promised. What does it have to do with me? Asano Akira said. May I ask, do you prefer women or men? I am not sure. Then is there anyone you particularly like? Have. Who? Akira Asano took out his long knife. Keilan suddenly felt that he shouldn't have gone to the restaurant for breakfast just now. When Keilan came out of Asano's room, his cell phone rang in his pocket. He took it out and saw that it was an intelligence dealer who had sent a message. I found some clues about the Dark Crow Club you asked me to investigate before. What clue? Keilan asked immediately. It's just some fragmentary clues that can't be put together into a complete piece of information. It's useless to tell you, the other party replied. I can only tell you one thing. This club may have something to do with the Strangler Squadron. Ian's finger was still hovering over the virtual button, and the other party sent another message. Really? Keilan was startled. He quickly moved his thumb a few times and sent 2 words. It has something to do with the Strangler Squadron. This naturally reminded him of the commander who gave the wrong order mentioned by Chi Hanfan. Valentina seemed to have been looking for that person, but Chi Hanfan didn't seem to support her approach. Keilan remembered that after everyone was drunk last night, Valentina leaned back on the sofa, her head raised, her teeth biting her lips, and she kept chanting that person's name, man, in her throat. This scene is very much like a girl who is drinking to drown her sorrows because of a broken love. She is chanting the name of her ex-boyfriend, but Keilan heard the utter hatred from Valentina's vague voice. If that guy stood up now, if he is in front of her, she will definitely charge forward. Even if there are no weapons around her, she will tear the opponent to pieces with her teeth and nails. Keilan and Yvonne both knew about Valentina's injuries. In that situation, it can only be said to be a miracle that she survived. Bleeding, infection, organ failure, respiratory arrest. It stands to reason that her 10 years it would have been impossible for her to be carried off the operating table alive before. Perhaps it was this hatred that supported her and broke away from the embrace of death? Keilan knew that if this news was known to her, things would inevitably get out of hand. Valentina would definitely lose her mind. This is not what Chi Hanfan and them want to see. There are many ways to take revenge, but she will undoubtedly choose the most radical one. She lives for revenge, and as long as she can achieve her goal, she will not hesitate to die together. Have I ever given you false information? the other party said in the chat column. Please continue to investigate this matter. In addition, you must keep it confidential. Kaylan thought for a while and said to the man. Okay, but the other party sent half a sentence, plus a GIF expression of his right thumb rubbing his index and middle fingers. You need to pay more, right? How much? 10 million credit points, fixed price. I can only say that I have given you the maximum discount. I think you should know better than me the difficulty and risk of this matter. Deal. Kaylan agreed without much thought. How many days will it take to find out? The fastest is 3 days, the longest is a week. This is affected by some force majeure factors. I can't give you an accurate guarantee. Okay, the sooner the better. Kaylan closed the chat box and stuffed the phone back into his pocket. He looked back and saw that Valentina was sitting at the dining table, eating the breakfast brought to her door by the waiter. There was no reservation service on the ship, and the dining car with limited space could only provide limited choices. The plate in front of her, there is a German sandwich inside, with white sausage, pickled cucumbers, bacon, and sliced grilled elbow sandwiched between 2 pieces of bread. Although it is also very rich, in comparison, the Chinese breakfast is more in line with Ian's taste. Appetite. Chi Hanfan sat opposite Valentina. While watching the game video projected on the wall, he gnawed on dark brown whole wheat toast. He held a glass of water in his hand, but he never drank a sip. If this Dark Crow Club is really related to the man named Man, things may not be as simple as imagined. Valentina's performance was really outstanding. She attracted too many people's attention. If that man was also watching the game, he would definitely notice Valentina. Valentina's, although the identity and background have been modified, the truth is not difficult to check, at least for the intelligence dealer. It is much easier to check than the background of the Crow Club. Kaylan previously commissioned him to investigate Valentina and Chi Hanfan. He only received 5,000 credits, and sent the detailed information to Ian's mailbox in less than 30 minutes. And the energy of this man must be much stronger than that of the intelligence dealer. Otherwise, he would not be able to escape the trial of the military court. What would he do if he knew that Valentina was a survivor of the original Strangler Squadron? Kaylan tried to put herself into the other party's role. Valentina is alive, which means that besides herself, there are people in this world who remember the original incident. If she was only at the bottom of society struggling to survive, whether she lives or dies has no effect on her, but now, she has participated in the Arc Mecha competition and reached the top 16, gaining a large number of fans and a high level of attention. If she wants, she can expose that matter again at any time. No one would believe what a girl from a slum said, but if it were said by an ace pilot who had achieved good results in competitions and performed well, it would inevitably lead to the intervention and investigation of relevant departments. Although this may not necessarily pose a threat to oneself, trouble is always inevitable, not to mention that as things continue to ferment, the situation will become more and more complicated. The thing that people like Man hate most is the uncertainty full of variables, which will make him feel that things are out of control, leading to a series of unknown consequences. The simplest and most convenient way is to make Valentina disappear and make her speechless before announcing these things. Alien Relic Hunter. Author, Chenmi-san. Chapter 361. The people from Dark Crow came to inquire about the news and wanted to silence him. Are they planning to kill Valentina during the game? In full view of everyone? Are you crazy? No. No, they are not crazy. This game is the best opportunity to kill. In the last competition, Valentina accidentally killed a contestant, but the punishment she faced was only to be disqualified from the competition. Not only was she not banned, she did not even have to bear related criminal liability. Although the rules have become stricter this time, if a manslaughter occurs, the contestants still have criminal immunity. After all, the competition uses real guns and live ammunition, and it is almost impossible to avoid any manslaughter at all. Possible things. If they kill Valentina in the game, as long as it is judged as manslaughter instead of intentional murder, all they need to face is a fine of no more than 300,000 credits and more than 3 years. It's just a ban of less than 15 years. Even if the circumstances are extremely egregious, for example, if the opponent still fails to cease fire and dies due to the situation where the opponent has completely lost the ability to resist, the maximum is a lifetime ban. The price of killing is too low. Even if the Ravens Club will be pushed to the forefront of public opinion because of this, for the guy hiding behind the scenes, the loss is at most a club and the careers of several ace pilots. The club can change its name and start again. The ace pilots can be retrained, or they can simply be poached from other clubs during the transfer period. If a problem can be solved with money, then it is not called a problem. Ian's first thought after reacting was to abandon the race. If they continued to participate, they would probably have to face 3 ace pilots who were determined to kill them. These people would not care about other players. I don't care about the ranking in the competition. The rules of the game can no longer bind them. They are no longer contestants, but killers acting on orders. Their goal is no longer the championship, but Valentina's life. This is no longer a competitive match, but a life and death fight. Giving up the competition and quitting the game may be the wisest choice at the moment. This is just a competition. Valentina and Chi Hanfan's original purpose, to raise medical expenses, has been achieved. If they continue to participate, they will have more benefits. May put them in danger. But if you propose to abandon the game at this time, wouldn't it be equivalent to telling that person that you have noticed the opponent's movements? Will doing so cause the opponent to take more radical actions? Kaylan couldn't decide. If they choose to participate, as long as they can get rid of the 3 members of the Dark Crow Club, they can also use this competition as an opportunity to expose the other party's conspiracy under the eyes of tens of millions of viewers. This will not only form a kind of protection for themselves, but also maybe, we can also find out the guy who harmed the Strangler Squadron back then. In the end, should we cut off when it is time to cut off, or should we take advantage of the situation? Kaylan hesitated for a while and walked to the dining table. Major Chi, Laugo, and Zofia, please come to my room. Also, Asano Akira, help us guard the door. No one is allowed to approach, not even your own people. Ian's expression was serious. The Hound, who was telling Leighton and others dirty jokes, immediately sensed something was wrong. He immediately closed his mouth and pulled away to follow. Chi Hanfan and Zofia didn't say much and quickly followed Kaylan into the room. Kaylan closed the door, and Asano Akira stood with his back against the door like a sentry, holding a sheath. There is one thing I need to solicit your opinions on. In addition, I also told Asano Akira about this matter. After all, you are also one of the contestants, Kaylan said. He knew that with Asano Akira's hearing, he could hear everything they talked about in the room clearly. In this way, among the 3 contestants, only Valentina was unaware. Kaylan directly told the information provided by the intelligence dealer and the results of his analysis. He noticed that when he mentioned that the Dark Crow Club might be related to man, Chi Hanfan's body was obviously. He trembled for a moment, but soon he returned to his original appearance. Thank you, Chi Hanfan said to Kaylan. Kaylan knew that he was thanking him for not telling Valentina about this matter. Otherwise, she would have rushed to the private room of the Dark Crow Club with a gun. Pretend not to know, or apply to the organizer to withdraw from the competition. 2 options, which one do you choose? I think it's better to abandon the race. Chi Hanfan hesitated for a moment and said, 3 ace pilots, this risk is too great. No, Lao Chi, I can't agree with you this time, Hound said. Although I've always been a timid person, I also know a truth: people can't be timid all the time, otherwise the other party will only take advantage of it. Could it be that you think that if you can escape this time, you can escape every time? Hound took out a cigarette from his pocket, thought about it and stuffed it back, and continued, Kaylan is right about one thing. This competition is not only an opportunity for them, but also an opportunity for us. With the help of the competition, the amount of attention is a good opportunity to redress the injustice of the Strangler Squadron. Are you really willing to let the beasts who killed more than 100 of your brothers continue to be at large? Chi Hanfan was suddenly speechless. Major Chi, the opponent is determined to kill. Even if we choose to abandon the game, Valentina has already been targeted by them. At least in the competition, we and the opponent still have a relatively fair environment. If you leave the arena and the killer comes to your door later, he won't talk to you about fairness, Kaylan continued. Besides, you don't want Valentina to live in hatred all the time. Zofia. Kaylan turned his head and looked at Zofia. Which option do you prefer? When you asked me, didn't you already have the answer in your heart? Zofia said with a smile. I want to know your choice, Kaylan said. Just like you. Although we are the majority, Hound said, we will not force you and Valentina to obey us. The choice is still in your own hands, Lokai. Then. Chi Hanfan gritted his teeth. Continue to play. Okay, now we need to solve two problems. Kaylan snapped his fingers, walked to the porthole, and looked down at the stadium below. First, we have to get rid of the people from the Dark Crow Club during the game. Even if we can't solve it, at least we must ensure our own safety. At the same time, we should collect as much evidence as possible of their deliberate murder. Second, we need to prevent the opponent's backhand in the arena. Except for the 3 players from Dark Crow, I'm not sure whether the opponent will bribe players from other clubs. In other words, there are not necessarily only 3 killers, and outside the stadium, it is not necessarily safe. If I were that man and failed in the stadium, I would definitely send someone to intercept us at all costs. Even if all the spectators saw it, there would be no problem as long as we are all dead. Without key witnesses and evidence, it will be difficult to continue the investigation, and sooner or later the incident itself will subside. They only need to delay it for a few years, and the case will be the same as it was 10 years ago. Let it go. In this case, Kaylan continued, Zofia, can you transfer the people from the security team under you, old dog? You also call the people who are staying at the headquarters and let them take the ride. The grease will be on standby near the arena. I will find a way to contact Maginot and the people in the security bureau to keep their eyes on the Ravens Club and all personnel related to it. In this case, the arrangements outside the stadium are almost complete, and the only thing left to deal with is the matters inside the stadium. 3 days later. The 21st Arc Mecha Competition, Finals. The Zilong super airship followed the last route and slowly sailed over the sandstone ruined city. However, this time, 1/3 of the route had passed, and no team jumped out of the cabin. Almost all the contestants focused their attention on the same place. It is the Black Temple located in the upper city on the west side. It is the largest building complex in the entire sandstone ruined city. The entire temple, including ancillary buildings and squares, covers an area of more than 1.5 million square meters. Almost 5 times the size of other blocks. The main body of the temple that resembles a Mayan pyramid and the large floor tiles in the square are all made of obsidian. This stone is not produced in the surrounding areas of the sandstone ruins, and is obviously transported from far away. It can be seen from this that this temple has a very high status in the city. Looking down from the airship, the Black Temple is like an ink stain in the gray-brown sand. It is extremely eye-catching. However, what is even more eye-catching is the green light beam emitted by nearly 100 laser beacons. There are only about 200 marked resource points in the entire arena, and the organizers of the event actually packed nearly half of them into this temple. These green light beams squeezed together are spectacular, although the marking beams in the finals no longer have brightness, but with so many resource points gathered together, if you think about it, you will know that there must be super resource points among them. Even if there are not, the total amount of supplies in the temple is enough to arm several full formations. Random. Just hum it. The Hound couldn't help but cursed, if the farts of the event organizers could come true, the old sows would be on the tree. Although it's a bit unexpected, this is exactly what I want, Kaylan said, having most of the participating teams concentrated in a small area, which coincided with his plan. The distance is almost there, get ready to jump. Within just 10 seconds after the Zalong passed over the Black Temple, all 16 participating teams chose to jump out of the cabin at this time, and 48 contrails created a colorful smoke screen in the air. Pay attention to the rear. At 4 o'clock, there are 3 aircraft that are suspected of following us. Adjust the landing direction to the right at an angle of 15 degrees. Kaylan glanced at the monitor screen behind him. Sure enough, the 3 aircraft of the Dark Crow Club were following us. Following them, the crow's head painting with white lines and black background on the mech's shoulders is particularly conspicuous. The 3 of them changed their direction slightly, and the 3 Dark Crow machines immediately responded. In this way, Kaylan was basically sure that his previous guesses were correct, and they really wanted to win in the finals. Take action. Unit number 1 notified the entire team to prepare for a second change of direction. The landing location was changed to the center of the temple area, at the top of the pyramid-shaped building, Kaylan said in the team channel. Why? Isn't our plan to land outside the square and conduct mobile operations? Valentina asked, not knowing what was going on. Someone is targeting us. Kaylan didn't explain too much. The original plan of fishing in troubled waters was scrapped and Plan B was used, Kaylan said. Is there a Plan B? You never said that, Valentina said in astonishment, but she still turned around and landed towards the location marked by Kaylan. Plan B, add fuel to the fire, wherever there are the most people, we will fall. The 3 machines almost made a sharp turn in mid-air, and then merged into the large force, including them and the Dark Crows. There were 7 teams eyeing the pyramid in the middle, and an inevitable battle was inevitable. Melee is coming. Half of the resources of the entire sandstone ruined city are concentrated in the Black Temple, and half of the resources of the Black Temple are concentrated in the central pyramid. They have already seen a large number of equipment boxes in the air, and many are scattered around ground, unencapsulated weapons and ammunition. This building, which is very similar to the Mayan pyramid, has a square platform on the top, and a magnificent temple is built on the platform. This temple has a total of 8 entrances, each entrance is 10 meters high, 6 meters wide, and completely mechas can pass through it. As for the interior of the temple, there are intricate, maze-like passages. There are also more than a dozen green light pillars on the top of the temple. Obviously, there are also a large number of resource points set up inside the maze. After landing, pick up the unsealed weapons nearby, and then don't be reluctant to fight, go directly to the temple. In the last few seconds before landing, Kaylan said in the team channel, Akira Asano just abandoned the armor and sat in my cockpit. With a slight vibration, 21 mechas landed on the platform at the top of the pyramid almost at the same time. Kaylan grabbed it and grabbed a large caliber shotgun in his hand, but before he could get the ammunition. After loading into the cannon, the entire mecha was already out of balance. A black-painted skeleton without any weapons attacked Kaylan directly from behind, and the opponent's arms directly strangled the shoulders of Ian's body, fixing Kaylan in place. Why are the Dark Crows so fast? Kaylan found that he had miscalculated a little. The opponent had no intention of looking for weapons after landing, but rushed directly towards him. In their opinion, there was no need for 3 ace pilots to pick up guns to deal with the 3 of them. Both sides have blank skeletons, and the output of the power furnace is about the same. Kaylan couldn't break away from the guy behind him for a while, but the other Dark Crow machine directly raised its fighting dagger and pointed it at Ian's. The cockpit stabbed over. With a clang sound, Valentina's machine fell from the sky. The nozzles of the thrusters were all swung horizontally the moment it hit the ground, directly hitting the side of the machine holding the sword. The dagger in the opponent's hand suddenly lost its accuracy and stuck to it. The edge of Ian's cockpit slipped out, wiping a large cluster of sparks on the frame. Valentina didn't pick up the weapon. She didn't even have time to draw her sword. She raised her fist and smashed it into the opponent's body. The sound of metal colliding with metal continued to sound. P.S. Thanks to the exile journey for the 2,500 starting coins, thanks to Ziwi Chen Ziwi, for the 1,666 starting coins, thanks to book friend 15082021071296, the melon-eating chieftain for the 500 starting coins, thanks to book friends 201810020950272237, Pale 211 dozen. The reward is 200 starting coins. PPS spoiler alert, the mecha competition is about to end, and the next new dungeon will be opened. This dungeon is not a relic, but it will be weirder than a relic, and the Thulhu flavor that has faded now will be restored again. The concentration at the beginning of this book has even become higher. You can guess where this new copy will be set. Alien Relic Hunter. Author, Chen-Mi-san. Chapter 362. Valentina was in a fight with the mecha and had no time to help Kaylan get rid of the strongman locking up guy behind her. Kaylan had no choice but to turn his perspective to another place. However, the situation on Asano Akira's side was even worse. He had jumped out of the cockpit of the mecha, but the remaining machine of the Raven Club was still chasing him. Reluctantly, the sharp and heavy fighting dagger kept swinging forward. As long as Asano Akira's movements were even half a beat slower, he would be cut off by the sharp blade behind him. What's going on? Regarding this scene, not to mention the host and commentators who were already stunned, even Kaylan was confused. Could it be that Valentina is not the only target of the Raven Club? Otherwise, why are they still chasing him even though Akira Asano has abandoned his armor? The attack action of that mecha was clearly aimed at killing people. Fortunately, the target he was chasing was Asano Akira. If it had been anyone else, he would have either been hacked to death by a fighting dagger or had been killed by a machine weighing several tons. Crushed to death. The live broadcast room of the game was already in an uproar, and tens of thousands of barrages were scrolling crazily. At this time, even the audience who could not understand could detect something unusual. The three channels of the Dark Crow Club. The machine is not here to compete at all. This is clearly a murder. Are they planning to kill Asano Akira? Yan turned his head in shock and looked at Hound and Chi Hanfan, who were standing aside with extremely serious expressions. It's not just Asano Akira, Layton said. Didn't you notice the sword that guy stabbed Kaylan at the beginning? He was clearly heading towards the center of the cockpit. Why are they doing this? If there is a manslaughter in the game, you will be disqualified, Yan said in shock. Manslaughter? Mr. Ye, do you still think this is manslaughter? They clearly had a premeditated murder plan, Hound said. Why don't you call your uncles quickly and ask them to stop the game immediately? Oh. Yes. I almost forgot about this. Yan hurriedly took out his mobile phone from his pocket and rummaged through his address book. At the same time, inside the arena, Valentina was still fighting hand-to-hand with her opponent, and the two mechas had become scarred, as if they would fall apart at any time. Asano Akira was taking the mecha in circles. Although he could perfectly dodge the opponent's attack, but no one knew how long his remaining physical strength could last. As for Kaylan, he gripped the joystick tightly and pressed the output valve to the bottom with both feet. On his side was it's just a simple wrestling, with no skills or operations at all. The only thing that matters is the output of the power furnace and the rapidly consumed energy crystals. Although the situation is not optimistic, it is already much better than expected. According to the original plan of the three members of the Crow Club, after landing, the two planes will cooperate to quickly eliminate one of them, and then use the advantage of numbers to kill. Two people were left dead, but Valentina relied on her super high reaction speed to defuse the attack and turn the situation into a one-on-one battle. These people, they want to kill us, right? Valentina asked in the team channel. Naturally, she could see the situation on Asano Akira's side, but at this time she couldn't see it at all. He couldn't spare his hand to rescue his teammates. Yes, they want to kill us. Kaylan replied. Why? We'll talk about it later, now let's hold off the enemy as much as possible. As long as we wait until the organizers of the event intervene, we will win. Win? What do you know? Tell me. Valentina noticed the problem in Ian's tone and asked. I will tell you, but we have to survive first, Kaylan said through gritted teeth. He had already heard a tooth-breaking crunch sound coming from the joints of the shoulder blades, and the metal parts in the stressed parts fatigue has begun to appear, and I'm afraid it won't be long before these two arms are torn off by the opponent. At this moment, a clear cannon sound suddenly came from the side. Kaylan felt that the power behind him suddenly disappeared. When he turned around, he saw that one of the arms of the mecha behind him had been shot off by someone. The entire machine body fell to one side under the huge impact, and dozens of meters away, an ochre-red painted machine body made a backup gesture towards Kaylan. This machine body carried a sniper cannon with a barrel of more than 8 meters long, and a faint white smoke was still floating from the muzzle. The shot that helped Kaylan escape just now was obviously fired by this machine body. This is a team from the Mitsui Consortium. Kaylan quickly glanced at the identification emblem on the opponent's shoulder. Are they planning to help? Is it because of Sakurai NA? Or is it just out of the spirit of sports competition? However, no matter what the reason was, this was good news for Kaylan. He immediately activated the thrusters to distance himself from the Dark Crow mecha, and then took advantage of this gap to pick up the ammunition was loaded into the barrel of the shotgun. In less than 2 seconds, the ace pilot of the Dark Crow Club regained his balance and pounced on Kaylan again. However, what greeted him were 2 black shotgun muzzles. Kaylan directly pointed the shotgun at the opponent's mecha, and pulled the trigger repeatedly, but, unlike the opponent, he did not aim at the cockpit. These Dark Crow Club pilots were just influenced by they are just killers commissioned by others. Not only does it have no meaning to kill them, but it is also helping the Black Hands hiding behind the scenes to eliminate evidence. The Dark Crow Club's mecha collapsed. Kaylan controlled his body and stepped hard on the edge of the cockpit. This was done to severely deform the metal frame around the cockpit. Even if the opponent wants to abandon the armor and escape, they can't open the cockpit door that is firmly stuck. The 3 Mitsui Consortium contestants subdued the machine that was chasing Asano Akira, while on Valentina's side, the winner was decided in a hand-to-hand fight between the 2 machines. Just like the police who always arrive late after the incident is over in film and television works, it was only then that the ship responsible for maintaining order of the Yip Consortium appeared above the pyramid. Mandatory suspension. The development of the plot was very different from what Kaylan expected. However, thanks to the help of the Mitsui Foundation, the difficulty of the most dangerous part of the original plan was greatly reduced. It seems that after the matter is over, Sakurai NA will have to be invited. Have a big meal to thank her. The 3 Dark Crow Club pilots were taken away by the security agents who arrived, while Kaylan and the others walked directly out of the arena. As soon as they left the signal isolation zone, the phone in his pocket vibrated. It was the call from the intelligence dealer. This guy's voice had been specially processed and sounded like a synthetic electronic voice. Even his true gender was difficult to tell. Have you found it? Kaylan asked directly without saying any nonsense. Well, this man's full name is Man Adams. His backing is the Adams family. This family is very powerful in the army, and he is the only son of the old Adams, so he was able to escape when he committed a crime. Trial by court-martial. The intelligence dealer continued, Man is the boss of the Dark Crows. 10 years ago, the Adams family sent him to a military base in the wilderness to hide from the limelight. That base was full of direct descendants of the Adams family, so the military only his whereabouts could not be traced. 2 years later, Man changed his name to Marshall and returned to Ark. After that, he participated in the experimental project codenamed NDL0011 and served as the Deputy Director of Laboratory No. 1. He was also responsible for managing the experimental subjects in the project. Yes, you guessed it right, this is an human experiments. NDL. Kaylan was suddenly startled. Isn't this the pinyin abbreviation of the three words psychic power? No wonder Man and Akira Asano were not spared. It turned out that he was not only the culprit of the destruction of the Strangler Squadron, he was also the manager of the secret experimental force. Valentina and Akira Asano were both his targets, and he was the unlucky one who got in by the way. Moreover, if he guessed correctly, Major Chi Hanfan should also be on this guy's assassination list. Oh, by the way, there is one more thing I want to tell you, the information dealer said. What? Marshall, that is, Man Adams, is on the Zalong now. Okay, I understand, thank you, I will transfer the intelligence fee to you immediately. After Kaylan said that, he made another phone call and asked the hunting dog to join the manpower prepared before and the agents from the security bureau to rush immediately. Go to the Raven Club's box, seal off the scene, and intercept Man. As soon as he hung up the phone, Kaylan saw Valentina standing aside, staring at him. Did you just mention the name Man? She gritted her teeth and said word by word, the person who just wanted to kill us has something to do with him, right? Yes, now that the matter is over, Kaylan no longer needs to hide it. We will go to the Zalong now to arrest people. Is he on that boat? Valentina asked again. Her whole body began to tremble slightly. Kaylan could even notice that a strong and almost substantial wave had solidified around her. Although Kaylan was 4 or 5 meters away from her, the hairs on the back of his neck stood up involuntarily. This was thanks to the fact that the target of this murderous intention was not him, otherwise, he probably has to subconsciously put on a defensive posture now. The small boat used to pick up the participants fell down, but to Ian's surprise, Valentina did not rush onto the small boat, but walked to Kaylan and asked, "Is there any smoke? Give me one." "No. I don't smoke, and neither does Asano Akira. Do you have that gun?" Kaylan shook his head. Soon, the small boat carried the 3 people back to the Zalong. At this time, soldiers and agents had already surrounded the private room of the Dark Crow Club. A middle-aged man wearing a black windbreaker and a black top hat. The man sat on the sofa and looked at everyone coldly. Seeing Valentina come in, Chi Hanfan immediately took a step back and pressed her shoulder. A very exciting game man, who was sitting on the sofa, broke the silence. His eyes swept over Valentina, Chi Hanfan, and Asano Akira one by one. "I admit, you won this time." Hearing this voice, Asano Akira's expression showed a clear change. He moved closer to Kaylan and whispered, "This person, I know him." "I know." Kaylan nodded. Man stood up from the sofa. He patted the dust on the hem of his windbreaker and said, "But, I will not be sentenced to death, they will not kill me. What you are doing is just in vain." You, the things you've done are enough to shoot you 10 times, the grumpy hound couldn't help but curse. "No, no, no," Man shook his head very calmly, "if you think so, you are totally wrong." He stretched out a finger, pointed at his head, and continued, "I still have those precious information in my head. The people above need me and the things in my head, so, it is impossible to execute me, and you are not even willing to let me spend the rest of my life in prison, are you right, Asano Akira?" "What do you mean?" Hound frowned. "Do you remember Marshall? He is the original owner of my current name. He is actually still alive." Man ignored the hound and continued to talk to Asano Akira. Kaylan noticed that Asano Akira's body had a slight change. The moment of stiffness was something that had never happened before. Compared to the unsightly defective products like you, he is actually very close to perfection. It's a pity that it's just one step away from the success of the experiment, It's a pity that your experimental subjects are too useless. I gave you it's a powerful force, but you can't bear it at all. Marshal, where is he now? Asano Akira pressed his thumb tightly on the scabbard, took a step forward and asked. Man did not answer Asano Akira's question and continued to talk to himself. Do you think the experiment was really stopped? No, not really. The people above have never given up. You can't do anything to me. Yes, after all, if they don't give up on that experiment, they won't be able to give up on me. The lives of scientific researchers are much more valuable than big-headed soldiers like you who know nothing and only know how to fight. As soon as Man finished speaking, Valentina rushed out. She pulled out the pistol stuck in the waist of a soldier beside her, aimed at Man's head, and pulled the trigger without hesitation. Bang! The bullet was fired, but it hit the sofa. At this critical moment, Chi Hanfan jumped up, threw Valentina to the ground, and took the gun back from her hand. Kill him! Let me kill him! I want to kill him, Valentina, who was pressed to the ground with her knee by Chi Hanfan, cried frantically. You can't kill him. If you kill him, your life will be over. Chi Hanfan pulled the slide with his hand and checked the bullet in the chamber. I don't care. I don't care, Valentina continued to cry. But I care. What do you think those brats are trying to save you for, to avenge them? They just want you to live. Man deserves to die, but he should be tried by a military court, not you. Chi Hanfan shouted sharply. P.S. Thanks to the boss knowing name for the 100,000 starting coins, the fourth leader of this book was finally born. I was so excited that I added 3 ham sausages to the instant noodles for my late night snack today. Also, I saw in the boss's reward message that he was a serious fan of Dead Space, so I can guarantee that the next copy will definitely suit your taste. In addition, I would also like to thank LGY for the 1,500 starting coins and Superm14 for the 100 starting coins. No matter how much or how little, everyone supports me. Even if there is no reward, I will support the original version and subscribe to all paid chapters. Very grateful. There is one more thing I have to emphasize again. Never use an Apple phone to reward. Never use it. Either use an Android client or a PC web page. If there is really only an Apple app, then I understand. Well, forget it if you give a reward. I have said the specific reasons before. You can also do Apple tax on your own. P.P.S. There will be another chapter later. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Alien Relic Hunter. Author, Chenmi-san. Chapter 363. Additional update. Major Chi is right. Man actually smiled and clapped his hands. You have no right to judge me. If you shoot me here, you will be prosecuted for murder, waiting for you. Yes, the punishment starts at 15 years and reaches the death penalty. He walked around the sofa, looked down at Valentina who was pressed to the ground, and let out a disdainful snort in his nose. At this moment, Chi Hanfan suddenly raised his gun and pointed it at Man. Yes, we are not qualified to judge you, but I don't need qualifications. Bang. The gunfire rang out again. This time, it didn't go wrong. There was a bloody hole in Man's chest. He lowered his head in disbelief and watched the blood gradually spread around the muzzle of the gun. You can't kill me. I am. Everyone was stunned, including Valentina. After all, those 141 brothers are my subordinates, and I am the one who should avenge them most. As for you, Valentina, you have to live well for us. Man is dead. Come on, stop doing stupid things. Bang, another shot, and there was another bloody hole in Man's body. He leaned against the sofa and his body slowly slid down. Bang bang bang, as if venting his anger, Chi Hanfan kept pulling the trigger until all the bullets in the magazine were exhausted. At this time, the soldiers in the private room reacted as if they were waking up from a dream. Coming over, they all raised their guns and pointed them at Chi Hanfan. No shooting. Upon seeing this, the officer leading the team shouted loudly, "No one is allowed to shoot without my order." The soldiers looked at each other a few times, then lowered their guns slightly and pointed diagonally at the ground. At the officer's signal, the two soldiers took out handcuffs from their pockets and walked towards Chi Hanfan. Although man's crime is unpardonable, Chi Hanfan's behavior has also seriously violated the laws on the Ark, and he may spend the rest of his life in prison. But the moment he was handcuffed, the black-clothed attendant who was squatting in the corner suddenly jumped up, took out a pistol that had been hidden there earlier from under the sofa, and pointed it at Chi Hanfan. Soon enough, before he could pull the trigger, Asano Akira had already thrown the long knife and nailed the attendant's arm to the soft wall of the private room. Gen. Who was responsible for watching this guy just now? Go back and lock him up for a week. The officer leading the team subconsciously cursed a curse word, stepped forward quickly, and kicked the pistol that fell on the ground far away. Cuff this guy too. Wait a minute, it was Akira Asano who spoke, and he stepped forward. I have something to ask him. The officer was stunned for a moment, then turned to look at Kaylan. He was a close confidant of Maginot's men, and he could naturally be considered as one of Ian's side. Kaylan nodded. Marshal, where is he now? Akira Asano asked. The attendant snorted twice but did not answer. Akira Asano stretched out his hand and grasped the handle of the knife. No one saw any changes to the long sword, and even the blade did not tremble. But the moment Asano Akira held it, the follower's face was completely distorted, his facial features they were squeezed together, their legs twitching wildly, and intermittent screams kept coming from their throats, as if they were suffering from some great pain. But the long knife in Asano Akira's hand did not move at all. I said. Asano Akira pulled out the knife, and the man immediately fell to the ground and curled up into a ball. Marshal, where is he now? Asano Akira asked again. South 16th District. Hearing this place name, Kaylan and Hound looked at each other. The latter frowned and gestured to Kaylan. The troublesome place, Kaylan read the other person's lips. Indeed, the South 16th District is a very troublesome, and very special place. Hey. At this time, Leighton, who looked puzzled, squeezed over and asked the two of them in a low voice, isn't there only 15 districts in the South District? This, the 16th District in the South, again where did it come from? The South 16th District is not on the Ark, Kaylan said, pointing to the top of his head, it's in the sky. Heaven. Well. The so-called South 16th District is actually a large low Earth orbit space station, Kaylan said. This space station was built in New Era 902, the second year after the Ark landed on Alpha Star. Its original purpose was it was used for scientific research, but later due to various reasons, Ark suspended those research projects and abandoned the space station. Then how did this space station become South District 16? That was almost 20 years later. At that time, the mining industry of various consortiums gradually emerged. They hired exploration teams to search for mineral veins and build mining bases all over Alpha Planet. What followed was a large number of retired miners suffering from radiation sickness cannot be dealt with. These people themselves are a mobile source of radiation, so it is impossible to place them on the Ark, and abandoning them in the wilderness is both inconsistent with the laws of the Ark and easy to attracting public attack. Kaylan took a breath and continued, so, more than a dozen leading companies in the mining industry jointly discussed and decided to buy the abandoned space station, renovate it, and use it to house these miners suffering from radiation sickness. Compared with in the wilderness, building a special shelter and using the existing space station can save a lot of costs. This space station was designed to be large enough to accommodate thousands of staff permanently, and it also has various daily facilities. It is fully equipped. After expansion, it can easily accommodate 20,000 to 30,000 radiation sickness patients. Until now, these companies participating in this containment plan will regularly send patients and living supplies to the space station. Although it is a space station, the actual space inside is almost the size of a block on the Ark, Hound added. The South 16th District is actually just a common name, Kaylan paused. This space station also has another name, Sick Village. I want to go to the Sick Village. Asano Akira wiped the blood on the blade of the knife on the sofa, sheathed the long knife, and walked in front of Kaylan. Go to Marshall. Well, when we were at the experimental base, he took good care of me. Akira Asano said, his talent is the strongest among us, but he was also the first to show backlash. At first, the nerves in his legs were completely necrotic, unable to walk, and later became paralyzed. I heard from the researchers that his brain also suffered backlash. He was sent away before the experiment was stopped, and I always thought he was dead. Alien Relic Hunter. Author, Enchenmi-san. Chapter 364. I'm going to find him, Asano Akira said. Are you going to the Sick Village to find him? Kaylan confirmed to Asano Akira. Yes, Asano Akira nodded. The Sickness Village place is not as simple as you think. At this time, Yvonne suddenly interjected, 4 years ago, I had a colleague with whom I had a fairly good relationship. In order to study radiation sickness, followed a mining company's supply ship to the Sick Village. Then what? Layton couldn't help but ask. He has not come back yet, and there is no news, Yvonne said solemnly. He seems to have disappeared from the world. Couldn't he? Layton hesitated to speak. I'm not sure. Yvonne shook his head and said, I'm just giving you a heads up. Also, if you decide to go, take me with you. No matter what, there are still people living in that place. No matter how dangerous it is, can it be as dangerous as in the ruins? Hound said, Brother Asano, don't worry, we will go with you after we take care of things here. Find that person. Yes, Kaylan also nodded. Let's settle the immediate matters first. Chi Hanfan has been taken away by the soldiers. With the dual protection of the Army and the Security Bureau, at least his personal safety can be guaranteed. As for the other staff of the Dark Crow Club, they are all under control and need to be carried out in detail. Only after investigation and inquiry can we know the final result. Of course, these things are no longer important to Kaylan and the others. Man is dead, and the settlement between Valentina and Chi Hanfan is resolved. However, when Kaylan turns his attention back to when Valentina was on her body, she found that she seemed to be out of body. Looking at the blood stains left on the sofa and carpet, she stood there stupidly, motionless. Valentina, Kaylan walked over and tried to call her, but got no response. Seems something's not right. Yan said cautiously. I know. Kaylan nodded, took another step closer, and grabbed Valentina's arm. She didn't resist. Kaylan simply took this opportunity to pull her out of the private room, and in this pull, during the process of pulling, the focus of her eyes never moved away from the pool of blood. It wasn't until the blood disappeared from sight that Valentina's body trembled violently. She looked at Kaylan blankly, and then slowly squatted down against the wall. Do you feel confused? Kaylan simply sat down cross-legged in front of her. The feeling of revenge is not as satisfying as you imagined, right? Valentina shook her head, and then nodded hesitantly. Kaylan waved to the Hound, who immediately understood what he meant, took out a cigarette from his pocket, lit it and handed it over. Kaylan passed the cigarette to Valentina. She was stunned for a moment, then took it and took a deep puff. Thank you, cough cough cough. Pull slowly, this is the last one. After you finish smoking, you should quit smoking. A very powerful doctor will come to us in a while. I will ask her to help you take care of your body and find a way to cure your body, treat those old injuries and sequelae. If you think you will live soon, that's because you haven't received systematic medical treatment. Although it is very expensive, we made a profit in this competition. Quite a few, Kaylan said. And this doctor is naturally Sakurai Nai, who insisted on joining the hunting god hunting group that day. Valentina was stunned, not even noticing that the cigarette butt burned her fingers. After years of fighting pain, her pain nerves have become extremely dull, which is unbearable for most people. The pain, as far as she was concerned, was limited to the level of frowning. I don't know. Don't know what? Kaylan stood up. I don't know who I will live for the rest of my life. My only wish has been fulfilled. Although I failed to kill him with my own hands, but I have no goal. Valentina paused, lowered her voice and said, living is too torture. I don't know what's the point of living for people like me. Idiot, Kaylan scolded mercilessly and kicked Valentina to the ground. According to the general chicken soup literature or the operation of life instructors, I should tell you at this time that people should live for themselves, but I know that if I tell you this now, you can't listen and you can't understand it at all, so I might as well just do it. Kaylan stretched out his hand to Valentina, who fell on the ground. You live to help those 142 people experience life that they have never experienced. Do you understand? Among them, 141, one person is dead, and the remaining one is still in prison waiting for you to get him out in the future. Valentina's lips were slightly opened, and there was a hint of surprise in her blank eyes. Do you want to join the god hunting group? If there are any major discoveries in the ruins in the future, maybe we can use this as a bargaining chip to trade Major Chi out of prison. After all, he did not commit a heinous crime, it was just killing someone who deserved to be killed. No one is here to help you make a choice now, everything is decided by yourself. Kaylan looked directly into Valentina's eyes and said. I join you. Valentina took hold of Ian's outstretched hand, and the latter pulled her up from the ground with all his strength. Kaylan is right, we will definitely have to find a way to fish out Lao Chi later, Hound said from the side. We can't let him really stay in prison until he dies. The biggest resistance to the matter of retrieving people will probably come from the Adams family. After all, man is the only son of the old Adams. Now that the person has been beaten to death by Major Chi, the Adams family can only take out their anger on Major Chi if they want to take revenge. I have already had an agreement with General Maginot, and Major Chi will be under the custody of both the Security Bureau and the Field Force. It is said that he is under custody, but in fact it is to protect him, to prevent the Adams family from attacking him in prison, Kaylan said. At this time, Sophia suddenly walked up behind Kaylan, took one of Ian's arms, and said in his ear, maybe the Adams family will not take revenge at all. Why? Kaylan looked at Sophia with some curiosity. He didn't even realize that Sophia's entire upper body was leaning in his arms. This posture, from the perspective of others, was simply ambiguous. To the extreme, Valentina, who was closest to the two of them, even took a few steps back and looked away in embarrassment. As for the Hound guy, he patted Leighton and Ivan's butts and showed a somewhat lewd smile. What's going on? We were talking about business just now. Why did Miss Soma suddenly get into Ian's arms? Jolajito scratched the top of his head in confusion. This is still in the corridor. Come on, isn't this bad? What's wrong? Hound glanced at him and said, anyway, all the outsiders have left. Come on, let's run away quickly. I don't want to be a shining light bulb. Several people tiptoed away from Kaylan. Only Kaylan himself was still thinking about why the Adams family would not take revenge. Do you know how old Adams is now? Sophia did not wear high heels today, but chose a pair of flat-soled Martin boots, so that her cheek could rest on Ian's shoulder. How old are you? Kaylan asked. The Adams family's power is basically in the military and is not well known in the business world, so Kaylan knows very little about this family's information. 97 years old. Man was born to his fourth wife when he was in his 50s. He can be regarded as a son of old age, so the old Adams dotes on this son so much, and now, Man after death, who do you think will be the leader of the Addams family? I don't know who it will be, but if you put it like that, it's definitely not old Addams, Kaylan thought. Yes, old Addams could only rely on the medical cabin to maintain his life a year and a half ago. The waking hours in the day are becoming less and less. If man is not dead, it will not be long before the Addams family the power will fall into his hands. But now that he is dead, the happiest people are naturally his uncles and cousins. It is too late for them to thank Major Chi, so how can they take revenge on Major Chi? What's the means? That's right, Kaylan nodded in agreement. If this matter were done by another family, no matter how happy those who benefited from man's death were, they would still have to do superficial things. After all, blood is thicker than water. In name, the deceased he is one of their tribesmen, and Chi Hanfan is just an outsider. A member of the family was killed by an outsider. No matter how fierce the competition within the family is, due to emotions and reasons, this revenge must be avenged. However, now that the whole incident has been fully disclosed, man's reputation has been completely ruined. It is too late for these people to draw a clear line with him, and how can they possibly avenge him? As for the only person who is willing to avenge man, his father, Adam Sr., probably doesn't even know the news that his son was killed. This saves a lot of trouble. Hey, where are they? Only then did Kaylan notice that he and Zofia were the only two people left in the corridor. Maybe you went to eat, Zofia said. What time is it? Are you going to have dinner? I still have something to tell them. Kaylan glanced at his watch. It was only 4 o'clock in the afternoon. There were still 2 days before dinner. How many hours? Is it an emergency? I'm not in a hurry, it's related to the subsequent actions. Kaylan said, there are still many details to discuss about the trip to the sick village, although the place is not as dangerous as the high-level ruins, but judging from the information Kaylan knew, it was definitely not a good place. If you're not in a hurry, why don't you go shopping with me? Zofia suggested. She came closer again. Kaylan turned his head away in embarrassment, not daring to look at her closely. He was still wearing his clothes. As for the anti-German suit for driving a mecha, this kind of suit is basically tailor-made and perfectly fits the driver's body shape. If there is any strange reaction, Zofia will notice it in an instant. Where to go? On the ship, Kaylan asked. Although the interior of the Zilong super airship is very large, most of them have the same cabins, and the entertainment items that can be provided to passengers are also the same. There are only a handful of them, and Kaylan really can't think of what there is to see on this boat. No, I want to go downstairs, Zofia said softly. Down below? Sandstone ruins. Well, I have never been to the ruins of Alpha civilization. The closest she got to the ruins was probably when she was on the Pioneer, but to be precise, Kaylan didn't know about the underwater city and how far away was the Pioneer at that time. The ruins seemed to be suspended under the sea, but also seemed to be hidden in another space. The ruins, what's there to see? Moreover, this ruins has been turned into ruins, and the valuable things inside have been emptied out by hunters and exploration teams long ago. Kaylan muttered. Have you ever heard of the ruins of Pompeii on Earth? The ruins also have the beauty of ruins. Every weathered rock and every collapsed wall hides a unique story. I have ever thought about it. If I hadn't been born into the Soma family, maybe I would have chosen to become a relic hunter. Relic hunters are not archaeologists, let alone writers or artists. This industry is not as romantic as you described. Kaylan glanced at Zofia and said slowly, we are tomb robbers and scavengers. They are robbers, thieves, robbers. Hunters will not appreciate the beauty of the ruins. We just want to save our own lives, and then take as many valuable things in the ruins as possible. It's normal for people in the upper class to look down on us. Kaylan did not sigh, but said in a narrative tone. He remembered the look in Luce's eyes when he looked at him before. which was hidden in subconscious prejudice, is like the expression a person with misophobia would subconsciously have when seeing a ragged beggar on the street. In the past, Kaylan might have been a little angry, but for some reason, now besides feeling a little funny, he couldn't feel any anger at all. The elite class at the upper level, the relic hunters at the lower level, and even the poor miners at the bottom suffering from radiation sickness. They are just bugs in the eyes of another civilization. Whether it is an insignificant worker ant or the queen ant that rules the entire ant colony, for humans, it is just a matter of stepping on it. "What's wrong with you?" Sophia stretched out her hand and waved it in front of Ian's eyes. "Do you think I look down on you? Then why would I choose you?" "Yeah, I haven't been able to figure it out either," Kaylan said after coming back from his trance. His eyes swept over Sophia's body. He suddenly felt that he was very irritable inside, and he couldn't help but worry about everything. No longer thinking about it, he hugged Sophia and pressed her against the wall of the corridor with a boom. Faced with Ian's sudden attack, Sophia did not resist or show any panic. She just glanced at Kaylan curiously, then stretched out her arms and hugged him tightly. On his lower back. "I don't understand, so I just don't want to think about it anymore," Kaylan replied.